Good morning.
Good
We're
morning.
we're
Good
live
morning.
here. Live on YouTube, but this episode will air in a couple of Mondays. So that's the beauty of going live. You get a sneak peek to our episodes.
Yes, and then you can watch the recording right after. So it automatically gets posted and you can get to watch the episodes before they even get released on any of the platforms.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, how's it going, Claire? And of course, we have my brother on today's episode, Colton. And
yeah. Yeah, Colton, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited about this episode today. How's your morning going?
My morning's going pretty good. I recently started trying to wake up before the kids, and that's been a game changer. So I just have a little bit of time to myself, and before the markets are open, and I get bombarded with emails and alerts and this and that. So been excited. Cleaned up as much as I could down here in my lair. This is kind of my basement man cave lair where all the magic happens.
yeah, he.
Wait, how many
I
how
was
many
just gonna.
kids do you have?
I have two. I have a 4-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter, Jameson and
Oh.
Marigold. So
Mhm.
super fun, super challenging. you know, Best of both worlds right now.
Mhm. Yes, that's a very busy stage, and you have double what I had. So, um, but yeah, my brother just lives like a mile and a half up the street from me,
Yep.
Oh, no
and so
way.
very close. And then our parents live another 2 or so miles past him. So we're all off of the same road, the main road, Higley. Um, except for my brother has a little gold mine with what, an acre of land, and
Yeah. We
yeah,
got
he's
in a county pocket out here in Gilbert, and it's just a 1 acre. So we got chickens. A bunch of them died. Got a bunch more. It's been this whole thing.
well, the summer was a bit brutal, so yeah.
Yeah, apparently there's all sorts of wildlife out here that also eats chickens. I mean, we just eat the eggs, but we got coyotes and
Oh
owls
gosh.
and that. And
Yeah, you've been
so,
redoing the fencing, right?
yeah, so we just had to build a nice bigger coop. And Arizona's a little different than a lot of places. Normally, the chickens won't lay in the winter other places, but in Arizona, it's so hot, they don't really lay as much in the summer. So now I can
Mm.
finally get some more. And we had a cow here at one point, not worth the work, to be honest.
Oh, what?
It wasn't my cow. We had some friends that went in on a dairy cow. Excuse me. And so I didn't feel the need to buy one. Like, why would I buy the cow when I get the milk for free? Am I right?
Yeah. Sounds right.
But that was a
Yeah.
cool experience to just have it out there. And then they kind of sold it. And I was like, well, that's an acre still a little tight for a cow, but it's
Mhm.
fun. It's cool to have the kids growing up here. Me and Jamie catch snakes when we do irrigation outside and hunt
Yeah,
gophers. And,
right in the heart of Gilbert. Yeah, it's just like a whole
right?
I
different
can't believe
area.
it.
Yeah, and they built a barn in the back where
Mhm.
they have my sister-in-law's grandma lives in that cool space. So it's just like, sign me up for this life. And they have a basement, which is
Yeah.
another rare thing in Arizona.
It,
So
it's definitely been a process, and it's been a blessing. I mean, aside from the Lord, the two major reasons this happened is I'm a mortgage loan officer, and my bank has some awesome deals and programs and stuff. And then I made a lot of money in cryptocurrencies. So otherwise,
yeah.
I wouldn't be able to afford a 7-figure home, especially not with today's rates and stuff. But yeah, I had a barn in the back. We built that out into a casita for grandma to move in. It's like a brand new. It's really
Mhm.
cool, actually. They're called barn dominiums, and they're getting very popular apparently. So do that.
Cutting
It's a
edge.
6-bedroom house, so just kind of been like replacing the floors downstairs, replacing the AC unit, just doing things as we can. But it's kind of fun to
Mhm.
balance, my desk job, taking phone calls and crunching numbers with manual labor with the children. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I need to come out more often. I mean, it's just kind of crazy how we live so close, and then, it's like several weeks between
yeah,
usually.
come let the dogs run around. They love it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're gonna dive in a little bit about my brother. Is obviously he's went to ASU out here and the WP Carey School of Business,
Yeah.
and then went on to the mortgage world and has done well in that space, building, that community. And
Still here, at least.
yeah.
63% of loan officers and lenders are out of business in the past couple of years. It's been kind of brutal. So just sticking it through says a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got my finance degree, graduated in 2012 from WP Carey at ASU, which outranks their finance program, outranks a lot of Ivy Leagues, which is cool. So suck on that. And I have a focus in economics and an international business certificate. And those two were not intentional. I just really like economics and foreign money policy. So for all my electives, I took nerd classes like that. And they gave me all these accolades when I graduated. And I worked for my church a little bit in nonprofit and still go to that church, love it. But some of the biggest donors that I met were mortgage guys. And so then a few years after doing that, meeting those guys, I went into the mortgage industry and been here for over 9 years and been at Sunflower Bank for over 6 years and kind of found my sweet spot. Continue to help people as they need help. And there may come a day where I don't do this and I just do investing or trading or stuff with cryptos. But that day's not today. So we'll see. It could be soon. Cryptos are doing great, but it's not today.
Yeah, it's a cool world. I never used to like numbers, and then through learning things from Susie Orman, which is the older generation may know who she is, but she was kind of in the Dave Ramsey family. But I started like enjoying at a young age, like reading the Q&As in her book of how to just, what kind of school loans to get and different things like that. And so I've had an interest in it. And then when Colton kind of chatted with me about the crypto world, it's pretty much over my head because it is a whole different language. And the way we see the coins and how their values are to, like, it's not a dollar value per se in the way they're worth. So that's been like, I'm still learning and I'm kind of have a sliver of it. But I thought today would be a great, episode to just learn this world. And it's not as intimidating. It's just people sometimes know stocks better because it's been more of a go-to for investment. This is, kind of a more up and coming thing, even though it's been around for how long now, the crypto space?
And since technically January 3rd, 2009 is when Bitcoin was launched. But when that happened, it wasn't traded or known. It was a response to the 2008 housing market crash. So if anyone has seen the movie The Big Short, that does a very good job of explaining what a lot of the banks did, how loan officers played a small part. And but really
Yeah,
just
I had
kind of
one.
how,
Not
at the
you.
end of the day, not me. But we call those the good old days before rules were around. So
yeah,
just
because
that though.
stated income, you just like stated. I don't know if you knew this, Claire, but
Yeah.
like when I went in to buy my house in Maricopa, I didn't have to necessarily prove my pay stubs. All I had to do was a stated income, and I could just state on there what I made, and it was accepted. And the guy I was working with the loan was, like, oh, well, we could put you make this much, and then you can afford a bigger home. And I said, but I'm like, but I can't. Like, why would I do that? Like my logic of like, well, that means the payment's higher, the loan is more risky for me. And so my young 26 self was just like, that's not following rules. Like, that's lying. And
thank God you had morals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and in the end, it didn't matter because I was out in Maricopa. The value of homes just dropped tremendously. I ended up in a foreclosure, but anyways, that was like so different back then, but I didn't realize the correlation between crypto and that
in the
crash.
housing market, which I didn't either, but it is, a coincidence or more than that, that like, wow, I got into real estate, studied finance, found a way that one turns into the other. And I didn't learn about crypto until I think I first heard about it maybe 2015. So um, my boss that had hired me, the guy that actually had cold called him out of the phone book when I was fundraising working for my church, and he met with me, instantly became my biggest sponsor, introduced me to everyone who became the majority. Like as a missionary, we kind of raised our own income and stuff. So the majority of my income came from this one cold call. So never give up. It could be the next call.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
anyways, I remember him, Matt, telling me about Bitcoin when it was like $400. And I was like, oh, what is this? I don't have $400. And it's like, wish I could go back and find $400, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't until he's an entrepreneur. He's a very smart guy. And then it wasn't until 2017, right before Bitcoin ran up to 20K. No one had heard of really Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. And then all of a sudden you see it on TV and you're like, well, this thing is worth $20,000. And so I got in just in time to lose most of my money on the crash. Just YOLOing in, drinking the Kool-Aid, being a hype boy, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't give up, and I was like, okay, well, I can learn something from this. I can learn how to read charts. I can learn what is going to be good and what's not. I like the big picture solution to economic problems that cryptocurrency offers. Not necessarily every coin is good, every coin is going to have a use, right? Like, but kind of going into like, what is it? It's I'm not going to get into like nerdy stuff like SHA-256 coding and all this mining and stuff. But what I kind of realized, what got me into it, was seeing how the current system is with the banks and currency now, and then seeing an alternative to that. Because essentially before Bitcoin, your main alternative was another currency. Like, I don't like my government's currency, I guess I could use another government's currency, and no one around here takes that. Or you could stack physical gold, which is just not the most convenient. It's a good store of value over time, but we live in a digital age, right? So you're not going to probably be trading slivers of gold for your groceries. But seeing something like Bitcoin, where many will say there's no intrinsic value to it, but I disagree. I think that the math and the security is the value to it. And so I kind of saw a big picture. Wow, this was launched in a response after the housing market crash by an anonymous person. We don't know. Doesn't really matter who it was. We call him Satoshi Nakamoto, or he called himself that. She called himself that. Who knows? They called themselves that. Could be multiple people. But it doesn't matter. It's open source. Everyone can see the code. It's an open ledger. Everyone can see every wallet and every transaction. It's the most transparent form of money or currency that's ever been created. Incidentally, it's also the highest appreciating and fastest growing thing in the history of mankind. Like, there's never been an asset that has created more wealth faster. And a lot of people talking trash about it, and I get that, right? And the Warren Buffetts, right? The boomers and the dinosaurs, no offense. They're like, oh, this will never work, blah, blah, blah. But you know what Warren Buffett said before the internet came out and then email came out? He said, I'm never going to use this. Who am I going to email? No one has email. This isn't secure. He was obviously wrong, but the sentiment wasn't totally foolish at the time, because we had the dot-com bubble crash. And so I like to compare or make an analogy of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general to the internet, right? Like, why is this revolutionary? It's the technology. That is the most important part. Like, it's the technology. When the internet came out, that was a game changer for everything, right? For communication, for business, for security, for storage, whatever. That the internet's great and it's not going away, but that doesn't mean every website is a good website, right? So I kind of think of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies as the internet, like a technology, and built on that, you have different networks and coins and tokens that are kind of like different websites, if you will. It remains to be seen a little bit. Maybe some will be successful, some won't. But big picture, the main issue that it solves is it's essentially a global currency. Now, it's called a cryptocurrency. In my opinion, the word
And
money is,
global, I'll just pause on that.
yeah.
Global means I could purchase this whatever in this one coin, right, as my funds resource, and it will equal the same in another country. There's
Yeah.
not a conversion from if I take my euro money from Italy and bring it and have to convert it back into, obviously, Claire, with your traveling, you're having to convert that cash of American dollar into euro. And in that translation, some is lost because their value is different than ours or vice versa. Does that make sense?
And
Totally.
anyone in the world can buy it.
Anyone in the world can buy it. Think of gold. Like, gold is not issued by a government, right? It's a scarce resource that is universally valued around the world. It's not as convenient to transact in a digital age, but you think of the difference. Like, a lot of people think currency and money is the same thing, and they're not. Like, money is something that has particular properties that make it a good store of value or medium of exchange. Like, we don't use dirt clods, right? They're everywhere. They break. There's no value to it, right? You could argue the US dollar now doesn't have anything backing it, since we went off the gold standard and then recently went off the, petrodollar backing. But regardless, a currency is something that's issued by a government. And fiat currency, which pretty much all the world uses, is only worth what they tell you it's worth and what it's compared to other fiats. So, for example, the US dollar has lost over 95% of its value since its inception. There's no limit to how many dollars are out there. Nobody knows how many dollars are out there. Our government can just pull them out of thin air and send billions to this country and millions to this, and they can freeze your bank accounts. And not everyone in the world takes dollars. So if you've had your wealth in the US dollar, many people have seen since COVID, you basically have lost half of your wealth, right? Everything's twice as expensive. The essentials, look at housing, look at gas, look at food, pretty much anything is expensive. Well, why is that? There's, more or less the same amount of housing or food or petroleum out there. It's just that there's too many dollars out there and there's no value to them. So having something that could be global, like a cryptocurrency, is amazing. In 1 minute, I can send $1 billion to anyone, anywhere in the world in the most secure form. Like, do you know the fastest way to move US dollars from California to Florida? Let's say you had money in your bank in California and you want to make sure all that money clears immediately to Florida. The fastest way is to take physical cash on an airplane and fly it over there. That's kind of a joke, right? Like,
is that because it has to hold and verify
yes.
and then move, and then get
Right.
accepted into
I
the
mean,
other
an
bank?
ACH transfer, like we're talking about the SWIFT system, right? There's just very old technology that our country and the world's finances are based on, and they're antiquated. And so does that mean the US dollar is going away and Bitcoin's going to replace it? No, but the US dollar is moving to blockchain technology with central bank digital currencies. You look at the BRICS nations, and they just had their big summit, and they are rebacking their currencies by gold. And I talked about this in my newsletter too. Anyone can
What's
have
the
that. I've done
BRICS?
that. BRICS is like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and then South Africa, and a whole bunch of other nations, kind of joining together economically. to essentially dethrone the dollar. And I don't blame them. I don't necessarily want that to happen, but the dollar has been used as the primary means of illegal activity, war, trafficking, drug, all of that, right? It's people want to say, oh, Bitcoin, and that's deep web, dark stuff. And it's like, well, over 90% of all transactions of illegal stuff is the good old greenback, like the US dollar. So you can see this globally happening where it's like people don't have faith in the dollar. It's too expensive and too difficult to send money to other parts of the world. I was reading an article last year, I saved it, and it was saying that if you wanted to send $100 from America to I think it was like the rupee in India, or it could have been another currency. It basically was saying it would take 2 weeks and about like $30 would get there. Like, it's so slow. There's so many exchanges. And also, almost 2 billion people in the world don't have a bank account. It's 1.7 billion. And right now is the estimate. It's almost a quarter of the population of the world don't have access to a bank. So there's also been this huge barrier to entry, a caste or a class system, if you will, where it's like the people who have access to investing, to global trade, and the people who don't. You don't need a bank account with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. That's the whole point. You can hold all of your own wealth privately, securely on your own wallets. You can send and receive wealth. You can attach your identity or not to it. It's very revolutionary. It could go on and on, but the big picture, when people think, oh, I don't understand it, my argument would be, well, you don't understand the system you're in now. Do you really know how your debit card works? Do you know the difference between wiring money or an ACH or the SWIFT system, or how different currencies are revalued? Like, no. And the BRICS nations having their summit in the end of October, they straight up said, like, we are launching our own currency that's going to be partially backed by gold and other assets, and it's going to run on the blockchain. It's not going to be Bitcoin. They might make their own coin. They might use the Ripple Labs, XRP, or whatever, but the world is moving in this direction.
What's the blockchain?
Blockchain is a great question. Blockchain technology is really what makes cryptocurrencies, specifically like Bitcoin and other ones, unique. They're decentralized. This is another big kicker here. So all the US dollars are, I mean, if you want to be honest, they're really issued by banks and the Fed. It should be our Treasury, but it's not. And there's a whole rabbit holes about the Fed and the Treasury and Federal Reserve notes and what. But U.S. dollars are issued by the United States government, right? Could Google be shut down? Sure. If you go to where their servers are, you could confiscate their servers and shut down everyone's email and everything. Bitcoin's not like that because there's no one central place where it comes from or where it's held. Bitcoin is secured by mining. And I'm not going to get into all the details because some coins are staking, proof of stake, some are proof of work. Big picture, there are over 1 million different computers around the world that are taking part in securing the Bitcoin network, and they are moving transactions. Like, Google gives you a free email account, right? A Gmail, but that's not really free to Google. They pay millions and millions of dollars to host their servers, right? They want your information. They want you to use their other products. With Bitcoin, the blockchain technology is essentially a way that hundreds or thousands of computers all around the world can independently verify transactions and move them from one wallet to another. So it's decentralized. There's no owner of all the Bitcoin. It's like gold. Gold is just a resource that exists, and anyone can go out and physically mine it or do labor or work and trade for it. Bitcoin is like that. It is decentralized. There's no way to just shut down the network. So blockchain is how it is, the technology it uses to, mine blocks, basically have multiple different people all around the world, like, validating transactions. So you can't reverse it. You can't lie. You can't hack it. You can't commit fraud. Like, it is the most until quantum computing gets a little better. Like, it is the most secure, impossible to hack thing. Now, the last thing I'll say too in my little rant is you have Bitcoin and you have everything else. I'm a fan of the everything else, to be honest. I mean, Bitcoin is great, of course, but you'll hear Bitcoin or altcoins. And altcoin is just any crypto that's not Bitcoin. Some are great.
Does that
like
mean
Litecoin.
alternative coins? Is that when you say
Alternative,
alt?
exactly.
Okay.
Some of them are great. They're just like Bitcoin, like Litecoin, right? That's kind of like silver. If Bitcoin is gold, Litecoin is silver. Some of them are meme coins like Doge that have made more millionaires than almost any other crypto. Some of them are complete scams and trash and garbage. So it's like, you may want to stick with the top ones.
For beginners, where would you recommend starting if someone wants to get into crypto? Like, how would they know like what platforms to get, and then also which ones they should be investing in?
The $1 million questions. Those are great questions. And I should say my disclaimer, like, I'm not a financial advisor. I call myself an opinionist because I just run my mouth giving my opinions, but I don't charge people for it. And in my opinion, if you're a US citizen, you should primarily use Coinbase or Kraken. Gemini is good. There are other ones. You want to use these exchanges. An exchange is kind of like a bank, but it just exchanges your currencies. That's it. You want to use ones that are FDIC insured if you can, and that are US based. So like Coinbase and Kraken have been blessed by the US government. They follow all the regulations. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to get scammed and click on a phishing link and, get your information stolen. That could happen at Wells Fargo, right? But I would say stick with Coinbase and Kraken. There are thousands of exchanges in the world.
And I'll put those links in our, about of this episode so people can just, kind of educate themselves on that.
Yeah. They're very easy to use. I mean, Robinhood now offers cryptocurrencies. Cash App offers cryptocurrencies, right? Like, it's just so mainstream. In my opinion, I would stick with Coinbase and Kraken. Don't think you're slick and use a VPN and fake information and use some Chinese exchange. It's going to just steal your identity and all that stuff. Like, no offense, China. But stick with the main ones, verify your identity, link your bank accounts, be above board, pay the taxes that you need to pay, all that stuff. A lot of people get overwhelmed, like, I can't use this site or whatever. I mean, if you can pay your bills online, if you can log into Bank of America online, like, you can log into Coinbase. They are making it so incredibly user friendly. You don't need, I mean, you can go as deep as you want, but if you want to get started, you don't need to know how to transfer between this and that chain and how to read charts and set limit orders and all that kind of stuff. You could simply download Coinbase, connect your debit or bank account and say, I want to buy $100 of Dogecoin, or I want to buy half of an Ethereum. The other thing that's cool, you think about stocks. You can't buy half of a stock. You have to buy a whole share. And some companies use this to their advantage to keep poor people from owning it. One share of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's conglomerate company, Class A stock, is almost $700,000. He doesn't want poor people owning his company. There's some companies that don't split their stocks on purpose. You look at Apple versus Microsoft, and crypto is not like that. You could own 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. You can own fractions of a coin, which is amazing because, again, it lowers the global barrier to entry to get into this. If you have $10, you can buy $10 of Bitcoin. You're not going to have a whole Bitcoin, but there's not enough Bitcoin out there for every millionaire in the world to own one. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin ever created. And I haven't looked super recently, but I'm pretty sure like 19 million are already in circulation. So like, it's a scarce resource that more will never exist and can never be made. So I would suggest Coinbase and Kraken for the exchanges. When you get a little more familiar, I would, as a best practice, pull your coins off the exchange, at least some of them. So you can get, you could download Exodus Wallet, which is a free hard drive wallet. Make sure you write down your passwords, your recovery phrase, all that stuff. There's a million YouTube videos you can watch on how to do this. The nice thing with cryptocurrencies that you can't do with stocks is you can pull them off the exchange and physically hold them in like a flash drive or a device. And if you write down your passphrase, that device could be stolen, broken, lost. Doesn't really matter. You can just get a new device and input your passphrase, and now your wallet is right there. So essentially, if you could memorize 12 words, you could leave your country naked with nothing on you, go anywhere in the world, and then still be able to access all of your wealth. That is a game changer. Like, you look at millionaires and billionaires in China. A lot of them want to leave, but they don't because they're not allowed to take their money with them. China is a communist government. They don't want people taking the wealth out. There you can
So
find
this
reports.
just has that whole flexibility
The
to be
whole
able
flexibility. If
to
you want to leave your coins in the
protect.
exchange, you want to buy them on Coinbase and leave them there so you can sell them, like, I think that's fine. If you're going to put any serious amount of money or hold long term, get a private wallet, get like a ledger. It's like $100. You figure out a way. I could walk you through it. There's a million videos online. You can pull it off the exchange. So for just starting, cracking in Coinbase, it takes like 10 minutes to create an account, link your debit card, verify your ID. Like, you have to do more to open a bank account than this. Boom. Then you can start buying and selling and holding coins as you please.
And I was gonna, we're kind of running out of time, but because this is such a volume of information and wealth, no pun intended, but the when you look at it, it's in coins versus like our currency of dollars that we're familiar with. So you may see something is worth 37 million, but it's not really in dollar conversion. Like, that's not like I have $37 million in my account. So that's a different way of looking at it and understanding that it's not the same. And I only may have $100 in that account, even though it's saying that the worth of that one that coin that I have is like the 37 million.
Yeah, it's like Robinhood or stocks, right? Like, when you have your portfolio, you might be like, oh, I'm going to dump $10,000 into Tesla stock. Like, you'll probably get multiple shares. When you look at your portfolio, you'll see the dollar value of it, and it'll tell you how many shares or how many coins you have. The math is extremely little to none, really, to get into it, right? Like, because of things like Coinbase and Kraken, these exchanges are so user friendly. Back in the day, and even when I started, like, I bought Dogecoin under a penny, and it's like 40 cents today, and that's not even my best return. So, like, I had to jump through way more hoops than y'all have to these days, right? I had to get like hot wallets and go to decentralized swap sites and add chains and like the things that overwhelm people. But you could literally say, hey, I want to put $100 into Dogecoin. And then does it really matter how many Dogecoin you get? Like, if you really want to think in terms of dollars, you can open your Coinbase and see how many dollars all your Doge is worth. And I can cash out this many dollars worth, and it'll convert everything for you. But sometimes it's nice to own 1 million of something.
Yeah.
Like a worthless token.
Yeah, I was like, back on the beginning of this, is the whole like comparison to the website, and there's good websites out there, or just ones that anybody can create a website. And in that case, like, Claire, you and I could create our own coin, the Nourished Life coin.
Right.
And, you hope people buy it. And there's a lot of that, but it just sits. And because it's not known, it doesn't hit.
There's no use to it, there's no
like
purpose.
But they're out there. And so, it just is interesting too, but how certain ones will spike and someone will create something that's just off the wall or random or and it does well. Like there's no sometimes rhyme or reason to some of these random
Sometimes
coins
it's just
out
hype.
there. Yeah,
It's just,
that
I'm
just
buying this because
will
it's
sit
going
there.
up, and it's going up because I'm buying it. Like
Yeah,
it's
the
could be
trend.
like that. And
Yeah.
some of them don't have a lot of activity, but they're good projects in the sense that like they hold a key patent on how to do something specific on the blockchain. So it's like filing a patent for something and you're kind of waiting for a company to buy that patent or to utilize it. Some of these are a little further out. And then to wrap up, you had also asked, what are the best coins to get in? Like, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? That's what my newsletter goes over a lot, which is totally free. If anyone wants it, they can have it. I just send it, in different waves from my Gmail, one of my Gmails, to BCC to people. And it's just like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm seeing as economic trends. These are the coins that I'm most bullish on. I think will do well. These are short term. These are long term. Big picture, I mean, you have what you call in investing or trading like your blue chip tokens, right? Blue chip meaning like, okay, these are big projects. These are not little rinky dink penny stocks or just small
So
startup
in
companies.
comparison, it would be like, give us a stock, like that's
Or
a
like,
big one
we'll
that
say like,
most people
yeah,
want.
like, if you were going to buy stocks, and I'm not a financial advisor, but it's like, it's overall considered better if you want to buy Amazon and Tesla and Google and,
So those are
big
big
companies,
popular ones.
right?
And in
That
the
are
coin world, the comparison would
right.
be
Like your Bitcoin, your Litecoin, your Ethereum, your XRP, right? Like if anyone's been following, there's been a lawsuit going on for years between the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they've been suing Ripple Labs and XRP. And XRP just essentially won and set the precedent that like, no, we're not a security, right? Like they've already ruled Bitcoin's not a security. There's no, who are you going to sue? There's no sue Satoshi. Like it's decentralized. So, I mean, there are 1 million people with 1 billion opinions online about like this coin is good, this coin is not. You can just look at the top 100 cryptos and see how they're moving.
well, just
Don't
like
feel
the
like,
Fortune 500. Like that's a
yeah,
very popular one. So
right.
to break this down so simply, and I hope I'm translating this right, but it's like, imagine just as we're familiar with these, New York City Stock Exchange top,
Mhm.
whatever, the Fortune 500s, it's got the same world over in the coin space
Right.
where there's the popular ones. It's just becoming familiar with the language. As
Mhm.
Claire and I sit here, I know I probably absorbed 15 to 20% of what you spoke today because there's so many words and terms that the language is
Mhm.
new. And as we
Right.
begin to understand the language, look up the words and start, breaking it down, then it will start to connect. But
Mhm.
it goes deep. It's a whole different path. And I think at the end of the day, Claire and I, we want to have the nourished life in
Mhm.
all aspects, health,
Right.
fit, fitness, mental health, um,
Relationships.
relationships, and even our wallets can be nourished because we all want to have that freedom in the financial space. And this is just another pathway to get there. Um,
Well
and,
said.
so I guess that's where obviously we'll work with you and link whatever you want. You can just send us the different links so that our
Yeah.
listeners can click and then even connect into any emails if they choose. But it's, a 101 that's probably feels like, your high top class. I don't know. I didn't go to college. So was there a 404 or something for your like the higher degree of this? But it's yeah, I mean, just to scratch the surface, make another connection, another layer to an avenue that hopefully produces something um for the long-term goal, right? Like just to
Yeah.
have investment and
I'll give I'm not too big yet. I'll still give out my cell phone and one of my email addresses to anyone. So the last thing I'll end with is the
mhm.
call to action. is my newsletter list. I made an incredible amount of money in 2021 by predicting these economic trends. I had also rates were low in mortgages, so I was just freaking slammed as far as my day job, and now all of these people, oh, you've been talking about Bitcoin for years. Oh, how do I do this? I said, all right. It was just started with a handful of friends. I was like, all right, homies, I will email you guys periodically about big picture, what I think is going to happen and what I'm doing. That's organically grown to like hundreds and hundreds of subscribers. I don't charge for any of it. I'm not a financial advisor. Like, it's completely free. It's a labor of love. I have an archive list, Google Word doc with every newsletter I've ever sent for the last 4 years almost. And people will back test me. They'll do the search function. What prediction? Did he say this? Did he say that? So I'm here as a resource. I don't charge. I don't advise. But like, if you're like, how do I set up this account, or what video is going to walk me through creating this, or
Yeah,
if you
the
want to be on
basics.
the basics. If you want to be on my newsletter list, like, I mean, to be honest, I don't care. I don't get anything from it. I get the occasional mortgage lead, which is nice. I do want your home loans, that's for sure. But I'll give my email address. You guys can contact to Claire and Angela. Hey, I want to receive his newsletter. I'll send another one soon, because I already have another from the last one I sent. I already have another like 30, 40 people that have joined it. So it's like, I got to send him out. But don't get overwhelmed. Don't get analysis paralysis. Okay. Like, you don't need to know the inner workings of how everything works. And eventually you will use cryptocurrencies. You just may not be aware of it. The banks are already moving towards that. It's going to be the foundational layer that
So might as well get in today then.
Might as well get in early. A lot of people like, oh, I'll buy Bitcoin when, Charles Schwab offers it to me and it's not so volatile. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You're going to pay a 3% fee for every transaction from Schwab, and the price is going to be $1 million. And like, you've kind of have missed out. But we haven't missed out yet. Bitcoin's $90,000 right now. It's going to go higher. I said, if you join my newsletters, you'll see I said at the beginning of the year, I said November, I'm going to take big profits in November. It's going to be good. Obviously, I knew Trump was going to win, and that's very bullish for the markets, but I look at the charts and then I predict what's going to happen politically and economically, not the other way around. So I'm here for a resource. I really appreciate your guys' time for me to just come on and run my mouth and just give my opinions. And if you ever want to have me back, or people like have questions about it, it's cool. I'm not selling anything. I don't get anything from it, right? Like, I'm just
that's the true passion. I mean, that's like
passion for it.
Claire and I on here. We get our personal joy out of it each time we come on to podcast and share just our experience and things we're learning and growing in. And I mean, I think that's when it works, when it's our passion versus, the pressure to meet certain goals. And I don't know. If we hit 2 people listening and they get something taken away from one podcast or a few, then we win. And that's how it feels for Claire and I. But thank you for coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge, and might have to listen to this episode 4 to 6 times to absorb a little bit more. But I looked at Claire's face and I was like, she's really honing in to this, because it's a lot.
Well, I'll link this. I'm going to share it with my newsletter subscribers too. I don't know how many will continue to watch or whatever, but at least it validates me a little bit. Like, I'm basically on TV, guys. Come on.
All right. Well,
thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and yes, definitely going to listen to this 4 to 8 times.
Cool.
All
awesome.
Right.
Well, I'll send you guys my
Colton.
info. Anyone can join my newsletter if they want. And you'll probably hear me. I'm getting blown up with emails already. So the markets have opened. Let's go check rates today.
Let's make some money.
Pray that they're not as bad as they have been. But yeah, either way, it'll be good. So appreciate it, guys.
We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
See ya.